Hello, and welcome to the Libri Labra Book Club. I'm joined today by my husband, John, aka BookTube Hubby, and also by a book club VIP member, Tom. And just so you guys know, if you ever want to join us on camera for our discussions, you can do that by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Libri Labra. And there's a few other perks for doing that. You get priority commenting in YouTube videos, but also you get to be in a rotation where you help us decide what it is that we're going to be reading each month. We have a exclusive Facebook chat where we talk about the media that we're consuming. You get a custom bookmark. There's also behind the scenes stuff. There's polls. So, go ahead and check out the tiers if you're interested. And again, that's patreon.com/Libri Labra. So today we're going to be discussing Tetris, the games people play, by Box Brown. And this is a graphic novel, and it was Tom's pick. So Tom, do you want to share a little bit about why you picked this?
I read it for a group that I'm part of. I read comic books as part of their challenge last year, I believe, and this was one of the choices. I loved it. I didn't know it was like, oh, well, this sounds mildly interesting. I'll give it a try. But just the way it was written and the way the art came across, it was just like, oh, this is really, really good. So that's why I figured I would put it up for discussion here. So that's why.
I was going to say, we will maybe do very, very brief initial thoughts to then jump into spoilers, but also it's like history. It's like stuff that happened. So I don't know.
But the point is that nobody really knows this. That's why we have the book. So
initial thoughts.
I mean, I was excited just because it was a graphic novel and it would knock it out pretty quickly.
Well, that's an honest answer.
And Tom, you said you just thought it was fascinating.
I was mildly interested. Like I said, it'd be like video game history. It's like stuff I actually was around for, but that's another story entirely. But it was as I got into the book, it's like, wow, I didn't know this and that and the other thing, which we'll get into later in the book, in a few minutes. So that's why.
I feel like it's probably something that I need to reread because there was a lot of people.
Yes.
Things happening, and like I don't know all of them. So I'd have to kind of go back. I also want to watch that Tetris movie that came out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that looked interesting. And I happened to mention to a coworker that I was reading this, and she was like, "Oh, that's so weird because I just watched the Tetris Murders." I think that's what it was called. It was some kind of documentary that she said she had watched in relation to the creation of the game or something like that. So
maybe there's more info that we're missing here.
I mean, I think maybe they touched upon it a little bit towards the end, but anyway, I guess we'll jump to spoilers or things that have already happened.
Well, as far as if you don't know they happened, that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
So
it starts off by talking about games and why people play games and how far back games originated.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I'm confusing it. I'd have to go look for the TED Talk, but I think I saw a TED Talk from like Jane McGonigal, I believe. Okay. And I think she happens to mention in the TED Talk that games were used to essentially get through famine, right? Because it helped distract people from how hungry they were. And so, and I don't remember if she was saying that's kind of where the first games were born or just that games were used to distract people from like really, really difficult times. And it just, brought about community and distraction and a whole bunch of other stuff. So, it went pretty far back where it was talking about some of the first games that were being played and how it was activating the prefrontal cortex for people and just kind of lighting up that reward center. But I was surprised that famine was never mentioned in there.
Well, I think he's trading on the idea. I mean, he starts off the book, with Alexei, and I can't remember who his friend was. It's like Horatia. It's like one of the oldest games in the book. It's just that competition, that feeling of competition. Friendly competition, But then he builds on that, like with the cavemen and such. So I'm not sure. I understand your point, but I'm not sure if that was the focus. It's like
Mhm.
even we would play games, famine or not. I guess is what I'm saying. It certainly helps when we have other things that we need to take our minds from, but it's not. We would play them regardless. So I think anyway. So
Obviously, the person who really lost out here was the creator of the game.
Yep.
And lots of unfortunate circumstances in regards to, I guess, just that the government would kind of take over everything.
Yeah.
But there was probably so much that got lost in translation and like miscommunication, and there was just so many cooks in the kitchen at some point that like it's crazy to kind of look back and think about being a kid and playing Tetris, and that all of that was kind of going on previously. Did you know about any of it? Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I had a neighbor that owns one of the black Tetris cartridges, and I didn't know as a kid that those were illegal and or very rare now. Like back then it was cool that it was black and it was a different Nintendo cartridge.
And what was the explanation for that again?
That there were one of the companies started printing and labeling and sold Tetris without consent.
Right. Stein, I believe, was the guy's name. Who said, "Yeah, go ahead and do it," and he didn't actually have the rights.
Oh, he didn't actually have the rights, right?
Right. So he had to go to Moscow and say, "Oh, please give me the rights." They're already publishing this title, essentially.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, but before that, he goes into a history of Nintendo, which I thought was fascinating in and of its own right. And then you wonder why Nintendo. Well, that becomes further when you get further into the book. But just to think that it started as a card company, and he, the guy who made them just made really high quality cards, and it's like, and then how we grew from that, and then what was it? Miyamoto-san was his name, right? God, I guess I can't remember his name. I'm forwarding through the book here.
The innovator?
Yeah.
The one that came up with all...
the one that everybody knows, who I can't think of the name of right now. And he was talking about Shigeru Miyamoto, yeah. But they looked at like the Love Tester. That wasn't him, but the other one. Yeah. Again, there's so many people in this book, it's hard to keep them straight. So... but the engineer, was it Gunpei Yokoi? I guess. Forgive me for butchering any names up front, but and it's like, how do you see the world that is like, oh, I want to grab that thing that's over there. I'm going to make a thing that will allow me to do that, or like the Love Tester he came up with, even apart from quote unquote video games, there's always these games that they can make, just by looking at the world and understanding it and saying, okay, or like light guns, like one of some of the first light guns,
right?
How would you know how to do physics that and say, I know, I'm going to make a game, and so, but I just thought that was fascinating.
So they did talk a lot about the light guns, but I don't remember, like, at what point was Duck Hunt a thing? Because I don't remember that being.
The original game that the light guns came out with was like Outlaw or something like Hogan's Alley, where you were shooting people that were popping up in like they're popping out of windows or up out of things and behind things, and then Duck Hunt was a thing.
Yeah, the game in here in Japan was Wild Gunman. I don't know if it's the same or not.
I don't even know if the names that I said was accurate.
So
the explanation of like Donkey Kong.
Yes.
They were like, "There's a carpenter."
A carpenter, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
You
a
know?
carpenter and his pet gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
And what did Donkey Kong stand for? Stubborn gorilla? Is that what it
Something
was?
like
Mhm.
that, yeah. But yeah, and then it's also the kind of thing, again, Gunpei Yokoi, it's like, he looks at people on the subway and he's like, oh, they're looking at their watches a lot, and then that somehow gets translated into handheld gaming console,
Game and Watch.
which clearly becomes the Game Boy. It's like eventually, not right off
Right.
the bat, but he's the one who just who devises the NES controller as well, which is still used on all controllers, that we have. It's like, wow. I still haven't found the guy's name. Damn it. I think it's Miyamoto, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so there's a lot of innovation that goes behind, oh, yay, I get to play Pong or Tetris or what have you, even apart from the software skills needed for the hardware that have to go to it too. So, and that's when they, in '72, we had the first Pong machine,
Mm-hmm.
and then how do we get that to the home market, and then with gradual iterations and such to where we are today. So.
I knew that Nintendo and Atari had been around for a while, but there were like a few other names in there that I didn't realize had been around for so long. I guess like Sega, and did they throw EA in there at some point?
I think someone was working for them eventually at the end.
Yeah.
Because there was a bunch that were like, when they started seeing Tetris, they were like, no, we want some of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've always wondered how Seattle kind of became the home for like all the game companies, or when exactly that happened. But I don't know if Alexi was the start of that, or the Tetris company ended up over there, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
I believe so.
I think it said that he settled in Seattle. I feel like I just listened to something about Tetris lately too.
What would that have been?
I don't know.
And the thing is, for the most part, the mechanics for Tetris have remained unchanged to this day. It says a lot. It's like with all the classic games. You think of checkers, you think of chess. There are variations, yes, but they're usually pretty well established too. But if you look at a Tetris board, you know what's going to happen, and you know what you need to do, for the most part. So, because I would find it hard to believe that to encounter somebody. Well, maybe it's not that hard to believe that who's never seen Tetris before.
I mean, there was a whole generation of people that had Tetris on their phones, so
Right.
Like it was pre-installed.
Sure.
On the phone?
Mm-hmm. Like Nokia, like I don't know. There was a few of them I had. I was like, oh, it already has Tetris on it. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at the panels now where, what was it here? The Psychology Institute of Moscow. They want to say, hey, everybody gets free Tetris, and then they started playing it. Someone's like, no, we have to destroy all the copies. So, which that reminds me of even now is the new Zelda, for example. People taking off days' work just to play it. So there is some money to be made. So, yeah, Robert Stein was the guy, I believe, from Andromeda Software.
Yeah,
he was the one who was like giving out all these rights that he actually didn't have rights to, and then he had to go over to Moscow and say, hey, what's going on? So, but yeah, it just goes to show a different way of a different organization, for example, that the government will negotiate, and we will take the profits for this thing that you would build. So,
I think it was interesting that from the beginning, Alexei was just like, I made this thing. He never expected to make money from it. He never expected. He just wanted to have fun and play with his friends.
Yeah.
And that just that mindset is interesting to me, to create something and not want to monetize it at all ever.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he just didn't think it would get popular at all, but it seemed like he consistently maintained that throughout the whole thing anyway. Mm-hmm. Even when it started to get big, according to the story, it didn't seem like he was yelling, well, now I should get my fair share, or I created this, or right. Throughout the whole book, he's just kind of like, I made it. It makes people happy, people play it.
But they also kind of hint at, based on where he was, that probably wasn't a good thing to make.
Right.
So it was only after he got to America that said, hey, and not that he wants everything and all, he just wants something that he could live on,
Right.
He did make it. So, I did find that it is Shigeru Miyamoto with Donkey Kong. And there it is. Okay, so there's a carpenter and he has a pet gorilla, and the gorilla escapes, and the gorilla kidnaps the carpenter's girlfriend. Then the gorilla climbs up a giant construction site, and then the carpenter has to get her back while the gorilla throws barrels at him. I say, well, who doesn't know what that is? Yeah, and between Miyamoto with the ideas and then Gunpei was like, okay, you make all this happen now. Hardware wise, it's just to have two genius level people in the same place at the same time, pretty much gives us Nintendo.
Did the carpenter have a name?
I don't think they mentioned it here. And I remember discussions that I was like, what's his last name? If Mario has his first name, what's his last name? Mario. I was like, all right,
Yeah, I always thought it was an early version of Mario, but I wonder at what point they were like, okay, it's not a carpenter, it's a plumber.
Right.
Well, even the original Mario Brothers game was the two of them coming out of pipes,
mm-hmm.
and they were there's different waves of enemies and stuff like that, but it wasn't too complex. It was just them just going in and out and surviving. So
I think wasn't it just Mario Brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I think that's also there was Mario and Luigi, but nobody could ever figure out why it was called Mario Brothers except for the Mario part.
Oh.
That's Super Mario Brothers, yeah. Sometimes you just got to go with it. Yeah, but it does mean stubborn gorilla, Donkey Kong. So
that's funny. So Mario and Luigi Mario.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then most of the book I think is just the legal wrangling, between all the companies involved. So it's
that was
getting
mess.
permissions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stein had a big hand in that too.
Yeah. Well, he pretty based on the book, at least from my understanding of it, he dug a lot of his own holes that he had to get out of. So, but everybody who saw the game knew it was going to be big. So
what was it that was happening that I understand that how Russia works, they were like, no, we will do the negotiating and we will take all the money and whatever, but why did the KGB get involved? Or they were threatening to make the KGB get involved?
I know what you're talking about, but I have to find that in the book. Yeah, they do mention it at some point.
I guess I was just trying to figure out, obviously from the government's perspective, they wanted to make money off the thing. So, I understand that. I just don't understand why the KGB would care about a game.
Well, I mean, it is Russia's image abroad. I mean, remember the thing is why they needed these particularly Russian images, and some of them You don't really need that for a D game of Tetris, but here we are.
Well, I remember as a kid, you know, you start to kind of detach your memories from things, but like, you know, in my head it was just like I would always think of Russia while playing Tetris, obviously because of the image when you started up the game, but also because the music. But there was like a sense of detachment there. Like I had that memory, but also couldn't make sense of why that was the case. So, you know, growing up, I had no idea that all the history of it and whatnot.
I think part of it with the KGB was, you know, investigating people who originally were negotiating the with the American companies, and you know, like the first one that they had, you know, apparently made a lot of mistakes, and then you know, and then they got the second guy who was better, but they still took him out too. And then they had that committee who didn't know anything about games,
Right.
for the negotiation. So that was at least part of it. Yeah, and there was the guy, I can't remember his name offhand. I need to look for it now. Hank, yeah. Who, you know, so I'm going to fly to Moscow, you know, just on the spur of the moment, you know, it's like without a translator, without anything.
Oh,
And,
man.
yeah.
Can you imagine?
Nope.
Oh, my God.
Nope.
And he tries to go in, you know, to be seen. He's like, well, do you have an appointment? No. And it's like, do you have a
You
translator?
can't just do that either.
You can't just do that, yeah. But he did, you know, and the funny part is, you know, he eventually becomes friends with Alexei, and they become partners in Tetris World at the end. So he wins, you know. But
We're playing so many different variations of Tetris.
yeah.
It might just be my own anxiety, but I don't think I could ever like fully trust a translator. Like people just go to other countries and just have like a translator and someone there, and
Right.
Like I don't think I could do that. I feel like I would have to know. Obviously, I'm not going to know everything, but I feel like I would have to know a decent amount of the language if I was going to go visit.
I get it.
Babel comes to mind. I'll just say that.
Right. So I know my brother's in Italy right now, and then you know I would love to go at some point, but it made me start learning Italian again. So I like re-downloaded Duolingo so I could like start learning Italian again because I just.
Yeah, but you know, with Italian though, at least it's somewhat similar to Spanish, which may be good and bad, you know, simultaneously. But you know, there are some languages, you know, I know for me, Gaelic, you know, I look at it and it's like it invariably turns out to be pronounced in no way what I with the letters that were there. And it's like, how do you get this from this? And a little okay, apparently it's what we have. So
yeah, I've been talking recently about how I want to be fluent in at least 5 languages.
Wow.
I would like to. I'm going to make that a life goal. And so I said, you know, obviously English, and then Spanish, Italian, French, Portuguese. How many did I just name?
Enough.
Okay.
Well, again, they're all kind of related. It's just
Yeah.
like if you tried to, like, say Gaelic or Chinese or something like that,
Right.
or something radically different.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, here it is. Now with the KGB. Where'd they go? Was this to Hungary? Yeah, it says the KGB will be investigating all involved in Tetris. That was after the second guy got pulled.
So it's just a cleanup.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because this apparently going, you know, the negotiations have apparently been going on for years, but you know, and they were getting just enough money to you know, to make them happy, but you know, then all of a sudden, well, no, they weren't happy anymore, and then, you know, yeah, this is around page 89, I think it is, somewhere around there in the book, so it's kind of late. This is by this time, it looks like Gorbachev was empowered by that, so like Glasnost and whatnot.
So it wasn't super clear at the end. Who was it under the sheets?
Under the sheets?
Someone's entire family? Yeah.
I have to look at that. I don't remember that at all.
I don't know. Yeah, because they were talking about a murderer, but like I couldn't figure out if they were referencing a suicide, but there was definitely
Oh yeah, it was
family.
the guy. It was the millionaire that was.
No, but he like jumped off a boat or something, right? I don't think that was something else.
Oh, okay.
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you remember, John?
I do not.
What? I feel like when you finished, I said, "Does anybody die?" And you said yes. Did you? Let's see.
Oh, it was Vladimir's Alexi's sidekick.
Okay.
That was it a murder suicide?
And
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it sounds like here we go. It's on page 231. In 1998, an unimaginable tragedy struck the Tetris family.
Right.
So there's like three bodies. Tetris game co-creator pushed past the brink.
Oh boy.
And it says the killer's whole identity is wrapped up in his family.
Mm-hmm.
He views the act as a way of rescuing his family from his failures.
Yep. Yeah, it was a murder suicide.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure who that was, but I was like...
Yeah, it was his partner in Russia. His original partner back in Russia. The one he challenged him to a race at the very beginning of the book.
And then he left behind a cryptic note.
Yes. I've been eaten alive. Vladimir, just remember that I am exist. It's a devil.
Crazy. So, yeah, I'm gonna really want to watch.
Oh, that's what it was.
Documentary.
Yeah, he went and founded his own company, and then he had financial troubles, and that's what they say drove him to that. I guess he couldn't support his family. So then the solution apparently was, we'll just take him out of the equation, and here we are. So, unfortunately.
That's sad.
Yes. But after that, they talk about how Tetris as a brand or as a trademark, they always have to, squelch copycat versions and whatnot. It's just insane. Oh, that was the other thing that they brought up in the book about the chips, Nintendo chips. It's like, oh my God, they were still that way back then. Like, you can't use this game on this machine because it doesn't have a Nintendo approved chip in it, so therefore it's not quality. So, which I totally get, but
right.
By the same token, it's like, well, that's an interesting way to make money. So,
So, and the explanation for that was that they would give or license chips to people.
Yeah, well, people were saying that they're charging higher prices just because they're creating artificial shortage of them. And then I guess what was it? Some Korean company said, "Oh, we can make that cheaper." So they did. And that's how you got all like the knockoff cartridges and such. So interesting. Yes, I like the subtitle. Games people play is very, very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the ins and outs. Like, okay, well, you get this, and okay, well, you get coin-op rights, but not handheld rights. So you get,
I just don't understand why anyone was claiming to have any rights that they didn't have, especially when you're dealing with another country, like a whole other country, like.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got people thinking, well, who's gonna know?
Oh,
right?
Goodness.
Yes.
But yeah,
only if you're caught. That's
right.
Where we're going. Yeah. And considering the amount of money that was still to be made, it's sort of understandable, but that's an awful risk, because God forbid, the owners, which in this case was Russia, essentially, come calling and say, okay, well, show us the accounts.
I am trying to think if I ever played Tetris as a coin-op.
I did a very, 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 very long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have a solid memory of it. I kind of
It
feel
doesn't
like
look
maybe
like a
I did,
regular machine.
I don't feel confident enough to say yes or no. Either way.
I'm going to say it's for me, very likely yes, although I couldn't point to a specific thing and said, okay, that was when it was. So.
I know I definitely played Tetris on the original Game Boy, but I don't know why a conversation about Tetris. This was like before I was even reading this. A conversation about Tetris came up between me and Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it was related to the music because I was like, "No, you definitely know all the Tetris music," and he was like, "No, I don't." And so we went looking for all the different songs because there was multiple on there.
Yeah.
And so, like, we were just arguing about whether he knew them or not. And he's like, I don't even think I played Tetris on the original Game Boy. And I was like, what do you mean? What did you play it on? Mm-hmm. But he said he never had an original Game Boy.
I never did growing up.
So what'd you play it on?
I played it on Nintendo.
What?
I played it on the NES. I played Tetris on the NES.
So was it in color?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Tetris is not, like, when I think of Tetris in my mind's eye, it's not in color.
Oh yeah, no, I get it.
There you go. Yeah. OG Tetris, right?
Yeah, that green backlit screen that was it wasn't the best thing to look at. One rung glare and you couldn't see what was going on.
Yeah, I don't even remember the first machine I played Tetris on. It likely wasn't Nintendo because I was late coming to Nintendo because first Nintendo system I had was a GameCube. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And then you get into Tetris Worlds, and
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. And that's also what Jeff was saying. He was like, I don't know if I've played the original Tetris. I think I only played Tetris Worlds, and I was like, there's no way. He was like, well, I didn't have a Game Boy, and like, I don't know. So, because he's older than me, so I thought for sure,
right,
like, he would have played it on something else. So,
like, I played the crap out of Tetris 360 on the 64. I think I got that right. I hope that's right. Because it was because it was 3D.
Right.
That was a fun one.
Wait, can I get it on my iPhone?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't think there's any system that you could not get it on.
I'm gonna look up
now it may be illegal. No.
my dad had it on his Nokia. Yeah, you can get it on your iPhone.
Yeah, so there is Tetris.
Yeah.
And then Block Puzzle.
Yeah. All the knockoffs, yeah.
Yeah. There's all sorts of knockoffs now.
Wow.
Yep.
Why is that okay?
It's not. they just until they get like a cease and desist order, they're gonna continue selling.
But there's a lot.
Yeah. That's why Nintendo is the way.
Rush.
That's why the Nintendo is the way they are, because they almost have to be.
Wow.
Now, granted, that results in some really awful cases, but
Tetris Beat. It says it's a puzzle music rhythm game.
I'll see.
There you go.
You gotta buy it now?
There's all sorts of them.
Okay, download.
Yeah.
She got that one.
We're gonna see that's all about.
See?
But it does look like official Tetris. Yeah, because it's got the little R next to the Tetris name. So it's like a
trademark.
Trademark Tetris
evolution
iteration, whatever. So
what was it in the book, if I recall, they were talking about Tetris, and was it Atari that they were saying that they were putting all their money behind what looked like a super asteroids, and that never
Yeah.
apparently went off.
I think so. Yeah.
So, and again, who knows? I mean, they could have been right, but they weren't. And it turns out they weren't. But it's just interesting that the way things turned out, I guess.
I think I need to look more into Atari's past, because I feel like there's been multiple times that they've hit rock bottom and crawled back.
Yes.
So
there is on Steam. I don't remember how much it is, but it's a really, really well done, like retrospective, like with the games and everything. Like a 50th anniversary Atari.
Okay.
Thing. It was just I have it, and it's hard to describe, but it's just like somebody really put a lot of time and effort into making this really, really nice. So it's not only they have like documentaries like with the founders and such, they also have the games that you can actually play.
Okay.
So
that's nice.
It is. So, but yeah, I mean, even back in the day, I can remember on like the Atari, they had, what the hell was the name of the game? Shootout or something like that. And all it was just basically, two what looked like artillery guns firing up, and you just had to hit whatever's in the sky. And we liked it. That was great, Or back in the day, God, I remember on the TRS-80, there was a game company called Avalon Hill that made war games, but they also made something called Planet Miners, which was a text-based adventure. And you had to go and try to mine the solar system, but other families are trying to do it too. And so, like, if you went to a planet that the other family owned, you could try to sabotage their ship and take the planet over. But and it was just like all text, something that we should never fly today. But at the time, that was great fun.
When I met you guys, Jeff was playing Aardwolf.
Mm-hmm.
All fully text-based RPG.
Yeah, and the MUDs and all that back in the day. So it's the graphics do help, obviously, but there's something about just one more game.
I know that graphics have just improved incrementally over time,
Mm-hmm.
but there were some games that I really could not play because, as interesting as the story sounded,
Mm-hmm.
the scenery in the game all looked identical to me. I could not navigate it because it all looked like the same terrain to me.
What was the game that did that to me? Soul Reaver.
That's what I was going to say. Soul Reaver and
Yeah.
also Tomb Raider. Both
Tomb
of those
Raider.
I could not
Right.
They look the same. I was in the same tunnel every single time. How does anybody play this? And people were just so excited about it, and they would just talk about it. And I'm like, what are they seeing that I'm missing? Because I cannot. This does not make sense. It wasn't translating in my brain.
That reminds me of the old game Descent, which was really like you're in a spaceship, and it was truly 3D. So you could go up, down, and and it's it's like even we had 2D like you were just saying with Tomb Raider, but this you could go all three directions, X, Y, and Z axis. I could just never get the hang of it. It was just beyond me. But
and even games that while I was playing, I was like, oh my god, the graphics. I remember when I first played Resident Evil, I was like, this is amazing. And then going back and seeing what it looked like,
right,
it's just like, whoa.
Same with Twisted Metal, playing the old PlayStation games.
Yep, I remember that. Sweet Tooth and whatnot. But
you play Tetris now.
Yeah.
It's going to be very different than
yeah, but by the same token, it will still be Tetris because the rules will be the same.
Yo, can one of the things that got me, I was like, I couldn't do it, is how many levels of Tetris do you think you've gone through in your life? What is the max that you've done, and how fast was it going down? They explained something in there that in order to keep up on a certain level, you have to see the bricks in your mind's eye.
Oh yeah.
That the TV can't even keep up to show you where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
They're going so fast that nope. Nope.
Back in the day, I was a StarCraft player, and I actually finished the campaign the storyline. But nowadays I just watch like the videos, like the cast of the tournaments and such, and these guys are like way like I will never see this in 10 lifetimes,
Yeah.
And they're just so good. So yeah, they're just and the cast writer I said, it's like it's you look at like the what do they call them, like the grand masters, I guess. And then you look at the pros, and there's such a wide difference between them. It's like, yeah, there's something special going on there. So, which is why I play turn-based games anymore. That's another story entirely. So anything more about Tetris or Box Brown and whatnot?
I don't know.
I like the art style. It was simple, but it was it was expressive.
Yeah.
It got
And
the
they
point
like
across.
very simple color palette.
Mm-hmm.
2 colors.
I mean,
Or really one.
black and yellow essentially.
Yeah.
So, and the lettering, thankfully, was easy to read.
Yeah.
Dude, everything was done well.
Yeah.
The layout, the timeline, how they explain certain things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like when you start, like when I started, I had forgotten, like, why is Nintendo in here? And then like, well, wait for it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it makes me want to find out more about Nintendo's whole history, like more detail about it.
mm-hmm.
You think Tetris is on the classic Nintendo thing that we got? We got the little...
Yeah. What?
We could probably just plug that in and fire it up.
We should figure that out. I forgot we even had that thing. Did we ever get the NES one? The Super NES one?
No, that's the one I wanted.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because it had Mario RPG and Super Metroid on it.
Yeah.
Tetris is everywhere.
Yes.
Do you think you're gonna see the movie? I think it's a movie, right?
Is it a documentary or is it a movie?
No, I think it's a movie.
Tetris movie.
I'm gonna see really quick.
Yeah, if it's a documentary, I might. If it's an actual movie, then I think I might pass.
Well, we'll see what kind of info it's got.
Like, I don't know if it was a Netflix movie. It's on Apple TV.
Yep, it's on Apple TV.
Oh, interesting. So it says Hank Rogers discovers Tetris in 1988 and then risks everything by traveling to the Soviet Union, where he joins forces with inventor Alexei Pajitnov.
So this is Hank's story.
Yeah, to bring the game to the masses. Interesting. I didn't realize it was going to be Hank's story. So the trailer looked good, though.
Well, he's the American that wins.
Right.
That's good. Hometown.
Well, we should be telling Alexei's story too.
Well, yeah, he's in there.
Yeah, but still.
I mean,
See where the focus
Americans
is.
are going to American.
Well, now you at least have the backbone to appreciate doing something. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that, half the book is like the history of gaming and the history of Nintendo in particular. Then the other half is, the history of Tetris. And the legal wrangling that went on to get the rights to it. So. So that's of interest, please pick it up. No, I mean, I didn't know I was interested in it until I started reading it. It's like,
yeah, for real. I read all the way through it in a single day, and I was like, oh, wow, that was cool.
Yeah.
Good to know.
It does get hard to, okay, who's this person? Who's this person? And Brown does his best to, say the last names when he can, where it's appropriate. So, okay, that's that one.
So the documentary it's a docu-series.
Okay.
It's called The Tetris Murders, and it says, a look at the unsolved murders of Vladimir Pokhilko, who was involved in the development of the puzzle-based video game Tetris, and his wife and their young son in their Palo Alto, California home on September 22nd, 1998.
Right.
It says co-developer did not kill himself and his family. Retired crime scene investigator Sandra Brown returns to the crime scene and uncovers more news. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
That's upsetting.
We should just watch both. I don't know how many episodes there are, though.
Well,
did you want to do final thoughts?
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm again just sad that my copy is kind of falling apart, but maybe I can figure something out to keep it together. Right. But I'm glad I did get a hard copy.
It shows that it's got some good use to it.
Yes.
Somebody appreciated it.
Well loved, if not gently used.
And since it's a quick read, I would definitely reread it just to get a better understanding of really all the hands that were involved.
Right.
I would give it 5 stars.
I agree. 5 stars as well, just because of how quick. Like, I didn't know I needed that info.
Yeah, exactly. He moves the story along at a good clip, and he doesn't really bog it down, which is nice. And then all of a sudden you're like 200 pages in. And it's like, wow, that was really cool. So I gave it a 5 stars. This is my second read through of it. So, but that's just it. But then again, all three of the choices I had up for nomination, I had
reread.
Yeah. So.
Hey, just like your music choices when you first play Tetris. Doesn't matter which one you pick, you're gonna have fun playing it.
Yep.
Do you feel like you took away anything additional from the second read? Anything?
I think what stood out to me in this reading was, and I can't remember his Hank. I can't remember his last name. His part in all of this. It's like, to defy pretty much everybody. And say, I'm going to go to Russia and negotiate for this thing. And not even have a translator, and he ends up winning. So, and and the unfortunate demise of Alexei's partner Vladimir is, But there's always a human drama, I guess, is the point. And like I said before, just basically, there are games people play when that amount of money is on the line. So.
And everybody wanted a piece of the pie.
Oh yeah, because everybody knew it was going to be a huge hit. So.
All right, so Tetris, the games people play by Box Brown. Super cool. Pick it up.
5 stars.
5 stars
Unanimous.
all around.
Fun.
And then we're going to try to squeeze in another book and hopefully...
Is this Piranesi?
Yes, and hopefully discuss it towards the end of the month, and then we will be on track again. So we're going to be reading Piranesi by Susanna Clark. I'm not even fully sure what this is about. Something about a room that's infinite.
La 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 la.
But it sounds cool. And it is a book of the month title. And it was relatively short, so we decided to read it because we are trying to catch up and get back on track.
And the one after that, and I mentioned it because it's long.
Yes.
Is Assassin's Quest, the 3rd volume in the Farseer trilogy.
That's what I should be reading.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm reading about a chapter a day, and I think I'm about 27 chapters in out of like 41. So.
Okay.
I'll get through it as fast as I can.
All right, sweet. Well, just a reminder.
First.
What? Yeah, you should probably read that one first. So just a reminder, again, if you ever want to join us on screen during the discussions, you can do that by becoming a patron book club VIP member at patreon.com/Libri Labra. So if you've made it this far, thank you for being here. And we hope to see you next time. So, bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.